We've been having this conversation every day almost on NewsX at this particular hour, and it's a very crucial discussion. It's about how to revive the economy. There have been several people who've been a part, several incredible people who've been part of this particular show and chat over the last few months, and the ideas and exchanges that we have had have been enlightening and at the same time very therapeutic, considering the fact that COVID-19 is only becoming from bad to worse in our country. And today, once again, we present to you some of the best business minds in the country. Let me in fact introduce them one by one. Murali M. Joins us. He's the chairman and MD of Shriram Properties. We are also joined by Mr. Amit Goenka, who is the CEO and managing director at Nisus Finance Services Company Private Limited. We also have Mr. Saket Mohta, who's the MD of Melon Group, followed by Shubhankar Mitra, managing director of Advisory Services India Limited at Colliers International. And we also have Mr. Ram Raheja, director of S. Raheja Realty. In fact, the vertical which finds itself strapped in terms of economic activity. We also are joined by Sapna Srivastav, editor of Reality plus Exchange for Media Group. And last but not the least, Mr. Anurag Batra, who's my co-anchor for the show and the chairman of Exchange for Media and Business World. Thank you everyone for joining me, and I hope everyone can hear me loud and clear. Mr. Murali, if I can come to you first, let's talk about the economy. Let's talk about how to revive the economy. Let's talk about how to take the economy from where it is today to a place where it was pre-COVID-19 days. Now, it's an easier thought to envisage and even easier to talk about, but how difficult would it be in reality, considering the fact that when we started this conversation, when we started this particular show, there were only about 1,500 COVID-19 cases in the country, and today we are in fact over 60 million cases in the country. How is the economy going to come up if a lingering disease that refuses to go away is going to be a part of our everyday economic activity? Your thoughts?
COVID is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. Probably we should start living with COVID now. So business has to adjust based on this COVID. Now we need to make provision for that. Business first 3 months have been pretty bad. Now business is coming back to normalcy. Across the country, all the state governments have liberalized. Now, when you walk in the street, you do not know there was something called COVID sometime back. So business is back now. But still, one has to exercise caution. So business is coming back. We see a terrific demand in particularly affordable housing segment and mid-market housing segment. Very good demand has come back. In fact, prices have gone up. Some of the projects we have taken the prices up, which has received a tremendous response so far. So I see business is coming back in a very big way.
Mr. Murali, you say business is back. You're saying business is back, but the economy has never been this bad. Even in terms of the government data which has been put out, we have never had the economy in such doldrums in the last 4 decades, to be precise.
Yes, you are right. Government.
So when you say that business is coming up, there is demand. What are you comparing it with? Are you comparing it with the pre-COVID-19 days? Or are you comparing it with the best economy that we've ever had?
Pre-COVID days, I would compare. We have got the economy coming back, particularly on the affordable housing segment. There has always been demand. COVID has put some pressure for the first 3 months' time. It's just not a pressure. It's mobility issue had halted the progress. Now it's come back now. I see a very big potential, very good growth, and a big demand has come up on this affordable housing segment. We are seeing a terrific response. As I said, prices have gone up now. So that's what we see now, and demand has been going up. So which is very good. So government, we can keep complaining what the government should do, but a few things, government, COVID is one.
Okay.
All right. What has been something phenomenal. So also, real estate also, probably differentiating between the boys and men have been really, really great. So today, branded players like us, we have been able to meet the customers' requirements today in a big way.
Okay, that's good to know. That's an optimistic point of view. Anurag?
What I wanted to ask you, Murali, you gave us a ray of hope. You said things are better. We want to understand from numbers how better they are. So if we were in February, let's say 100, in August and September, where are we?
Yeah.
You said you increased the prices of one of your projects. Give me the logic of doing that.
Basically, March, I compare end of March. March we had, March 22nd we had the lockdown, or 24th we had the lockdown announcement. So it had some impact. So April was the first month we had a real beating. So, it fell down by about 60-70% in terms of sales or collection. Construction, came to a grinding halt. From there, today in August and September, we have reached about 60-65% of the collections today, and the sales have come back. Compared to last year September, again, you need to compare because of the festivity seasonal period, October and all that. So now things have come back to last September numbers in terms of pre-sales. In fact, we expect October the numbers to compare to last October. So it's a pre-COVID situation which has come on, particularly on affordable housing. See, all this, whatever I'm talking about, is applicable to affordable housing in mid-market. If you ask me luxury housing, no. It has dipped further and further. I don't expect that to, scale up further. Whereas affordable housing, yes, there has been a good demand. It has come back to this construction. Yes, the migrant laborers issue has hurt us in a very big way. But now we are able to remobilize. Close to about 70% of our labor strength is back today. Hence, we are in a position to take it at a much larger scale. Construction is coming back. It's a question of time now. Maybe another 2 months' time. Unless there is another lockdown, which I don't expect government is in a mood to do it, unless British government is talking about lockdown. So we should not get any clue out of that. So, but without any lockdown, I see businesses going.
Thank you, Murali.
Okay.
At least there is some optimism and some movement, and
right at the start of the show,
the affordable segment. Let me bring in Amit Goenka. Amit, you're a little an insider outsider because you're not yourself a developer. Tell us, what is the change that a real estate developer needs to do to survive in this environment? And give us a sense of what's happening in the residential segment, in the commercial segment, in the retailing segment, and the warehousing / manufacturing segment. So give us a sense of where is the real estate industry headed. And investors in real estate have also kind of identified certain areas where they still want to put in money. Tell us, what are those areas and what are the areas where investors are not putting money? Amit Goenka?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Batra. It's a very, very big question. It's hard to summarize the real estate sector as a whole in a few minutes, but I will start by talking about capital allocation. That's what we do. We're a real estate fund and we allocate capital for investors, and clearly there's a lot of defensiveness, a lot of pessimism to cautious optimism as far as the residential space is concerned. Clearly, the overall offtake numbers pan-India have been shrinking. We were at a peak of 5 lakh homes somewhere in between 2012 and 2014. We shrunk to about 3 lakh homes. We may barely be able to sell 1 lakh homes this year. When you have a overhang of more than that of nearly ready inventory, it creates a huge amount of concern in terms of the capital glut, the sheer amount of capital that is employed, which is losing value, which is losing sheen. A number of NBFCs, a number of private equity funds, a number of banks, a number of AI funds have been stuck with huge amounts of capital without any end game in sight as to how that capital will be released anytime soon. And therefore, it's about restructuring, it's about senior, junior, it's about trying to go to SBI Swami Fund to get some relief, and those sort of short-term measures. I think that's one. Having said that, of course, to Murali's point, there are rays of hope in markets like Bangalore, in markets of Hyderabad, and few specific markets of Chennai and maybe suburbs of Mumbai, etc. Very, very limited sort of geographies where we're seeing some initial green shoots of offtake coming back, on the back of reduced interest rates, on the back of the biggest boys coming forth and providing a very, very easy payment plan or SOPs, which they've not seen from those brands at absolutely rock bottom prices. So there's a lot of enticement that is being required to actually do a virtual visit, even take the gumption to come to a site and make a purchase decision. On top of that, the entire subvention and affordable housing scheme in general, despite all the tax SOPs, has not really been too successful because processing of home loans is a challenge, getting subvention schemes is not possible. Asking consumers to continue to pay construction-linked payment in unready apartments is really hard. So the migration is for nearly ready or ready apartments rather than under construction, irrespective of what category of consumers we're choosing. For our own fund, there's a lot of defensiveness. We're putting out capital, but very, very, very selectively. Dr. Batra, pre-COVID, there's a lot more positivity. Post-COVID, the demand has increased 10 times because NBFCs have not come back, banks have not come back, private equities not come back. So whoever's sitting on whatever capital, we're seeing a plethora of demand. So clearly, in terms of what should be done, conserve cash. I'm saying that there may not be actual new cash available. So monetize your assets, give up projects you can't do, form alliances, JV, JDs, DM, and monetize, conserve. Because third party.
As you rightly said, monetize your current inventory, even if it means dropping, because the stamp duty reduction is a welcome step, but it's not enough to kind of entice the buyers. And they are looking at affordable housing, as Murli rightly said.
Absolutely.
And dare I say two things. One, for the first time, the end users are the ones buying more than investors, or most of them are end users. Second,
absolutely.
The millennials have for the first time spent time in their homes. So they understand the value of home. They've also saved in the last 6 months because beyond essentials, they haven't spent. So real estate, especially residential, which is for a user, will see traction. We'll come back to you, Amit, for more comment. Let me at this bring in Saket. Saket, you heard both Murali and Amit. What's your opening comments on what do you see happening in October, November, December in real estate? And when do you see the real estate back in full bloom?
See, I would like to talk about my personal micro experience. I'm one of the leading developers in Calcutta. And what we did numbers pre-COVID in the month of January and February, we have almost reached say around 80-85% of those numbers, the pre-COVID levels. And also when it comes to collection, our collection levels have also reached around 80-90% of pre-COVID levels. Construction activity is in full bloom. And what we had apprehended that would be a long tick-shaped recovery, we are seeing pretty much a V-shaped recovery in Calcutta, and we are very happy with the performance that we are doing currently. And going forward in October, November, December, as things open up further, as markets open up, as transportation, the trains start up and everything, and we just see the market picking up further, and we are headed towards the pre-COVID level very soon, and probably by December we should reach that level, the pre-COVID level of sales and the pre-COVID level of collections. When it comes to the sales and
you know, this is the first panel in a few weeks which is so optimistic and whose sector is doing well, and surprisingly it's real estate, or not so surprisingly it's real estate. Ram, this good news from Calcutta, this good news from Chennai. Ram, give us more good news.
It's a lot of more good news. Our pre-launch sale of our one of the largest developments of Khar Bandra, about a 2 lakh square feet project we launched we were supposed to launch in April, but our launch got pushed to a digital launch around this. So we have a pre-launch, actually not even a full-fledged launch because of the current scenario, and where site is working in full swing. We've done pre-sales of more than 50 crores on the project, which is a great sign.
What is the price band? And Ram, what is the price band? What is the units price?
So it's complete luxury. So in that concept, some people said luxury hasn't picked up. I do not agree. The ticket price starts at 10 crores, goes all the way up to 25 crores of my apartments. So there are apartments that we've sold between 10 to 15 crores during these this last 2 months, and we've registered documents over 50 crores. So we're actually very optimistic, and we actually believe that residential real estate especially, is going to come out of a very big silver lining out of the lockdown, out of the people really realizing the value of owning a home. As you were saying, the millennials had completely given up on becoming the first home buyers. Suddenly we're seeing so much traction. I have about 8 to 10 people coming into my office every day for an apartment, and most of my projects are Bandra to Juhu, Khar, Sandy Cruz, this belt. So it's not affordable. It's not cheap housing. Our 2 beds started around 4 crores. Our 3 beds go to about 7-8 crores, and now all our Jodi and larger apartments go 10 crores plus. So we're getting a lot of traction in that range, and we're actually very positive.
Thank you so much, Ram. See, at the end of the day, there is a real demand for housing, especially for the users, and they've saved money. And in Bombay, let me say, Bombay's 10 crore is equal to Calcutta's 5-6 crore. I mean, Saket may agree, may not agree, but Bombay is additionally more priced. So I think that's Shubhankar. You have a bird's eye view of, because of your nature of work, you interact with buyers, you interact with sellers, the developers. Tell us, what are the trends you see in the real estate sector?
So Anurag, the real estate asset class, the primary 2 asset classes, residential and commercial, and both have what we have seen is a kind of a little different pattern. So while residential is clearly kind of a V-shaped recovery, but commercial is little bit of a U-shape. So we are seeing, so typically if I talk of commercial, the office spaces on an average India absorbs about 30 to 34 million of year-on-year basis. And this time we are pretty down in terms of the office absorption. And I think it is going to take a while for the office absorption to take, because a lot of the corporate occupiers are not very confident at the moment or indecisive at the moment how to go about taking the future commitments, getting into the future commitments for office requirement, because a lot of rejiggings are happening, the workplace, social distancing, etc., etc. So some are of the opinion that we should take more space and have more spaced out employees sitting. Somebody says that I'm good with kind of work from home, 30-40% of my people working from home. So different occupiers getting to different strategies. So the office is going to take a little longer time to recover. Retail, what we have been seeing is like different states having different rules and regulation in terms of opening up of food and beverages, opening up of certain segments of retail, also the timing part of it. But so far as the consumer demand is concerned, that is also taking kind of a V-shaped recovery from the retail consumption perspective. And residential is definitely a V-shaped recovery, because on a quarter-on-quarter basis, on an average, the sales are about 30 to 40% up in most of the market, from the March to June quarter to June to September quarter. So that's a very positive sign. And what has happened that new launches have been slowed down. So whatever the past inventories where they are unsold inventory, lot of has been taken up during this. So when we go for the next year, I think we'll come with a much lower inventory platform, and I think we'll be seeing kind of a little robust growth, which was unseen for a very long time in Indian real estate.
Thank you so much. I think Vineet is the most optimistic panel we have.
Absolutely.
Sapna Srivastava,
right at the beginning.
You again have a bird's view. You edit India's #1 real estate magazine and a real estate platform. And I must declare to the viewers that, you know, it's part of what we do, Exchange for Media. And to our viewers, I did start in real estate, so I have some idea of, I started with it. I was part of the start setup team of the company that Shubhankar now works for. So, you know, Sapna, your initial comments, you heard all the participants say that they see revival, they see actual transactions happening. And Ram clearly mentioned that he's been able to collect 50 crores. So it's not just small bookings, you give 5%, 10%, but then there's no further kind of...
No, sorry. I'd like to clarify. I know I said collect. I said we've registered documents over 50 crores. So so the collection has been about 30% of that. It's not been...
Still, registration is that means at some stage that will come in. So it's a surety of a sale. Because in the past, you know, 30% would go away because they would change their mind, so on and so forth.
That's a very good job.
Yes, what I would like to add on this, what we've actually, the reason, one of the most important reasons what we've seen, all the fence sitters have actually are ready to take the plunge today, because in luxury housing, and especially with the ticket sizes that we're talking, from last January to this year, we're looking at a 4% reduction in stamp duty. Now, in a 10 crore apartment, 40 lakhs is not a small amount. So that has been one of the major driving factors towards actually documents getting registered and people saying that, so the timeline that the government has put, that it has to be done before 31st December and then the stamp duty goes back up, was a very important move from our perspective.
Absolutely. Thank you for acknowledging that, Ram. We don't acknowledge what government does. It can do better always, but it does a lot of right things. Yes, Saket, you want to make a point?
Another factor contributing to our collective optimism is the fact, sir, that a lot of demand for finished product, finished buildings has come about, and people do realize, as Ram correctly pointed out, people do realize the importance of having a home and having a complex living with the amenities and facilities. That's why we are seeing that the complexes that are ready to move in our plateau projects, they are seeing the maximum traction.
Okay.
Thank you.
Shubhankar wants to make a point and then we'll get you, Sapna, for your comments.
So interestingly, what we have also seen, there is an interest level on the plotted development, very surprisingly. And this is happening in Bangalore, this is happening even in Mumbai and in some other cities. I think the claustrophobicness that the people have of this lockdown of this long period have kind of compelled people to look beyond the city limit and look for a gated community, large spacious development and all that. And there's a lot of inquiries we are seeing, and at the moment the inventory level is very low, but what we have been hearing from those developers that they are seeing good tractions, and even people like Godrej Properties and all, they are now launching this kind of product on the outskirts of Mumbai and Bangalore and other cities. So it's a very different sign altogether as a product class.
A lot of optimism in this panel today, but at the same time, the pessimism is also an elephant in the room which needs to be addressed.
Thanks, first of all, for having me here on this very vibrant panel. And I agree with most of the speakers. What they are saying, is COVID has given new learnings, new trends, new models are coming up. The learnings, like our speakers mentioned, first of all, for the first time, it has become an end user market. Investors are not there in the market. It is end users market. A lot of fence sitters, like Ram said, fence sitters are coming. So we are seeing a lot of first time home buyers. For residential, yes, everyone has agreed that this is going to be a V-shaped recovery. But again, this recovery will differ from region to region. So we can't say what's happening in Bangalore would be true for Noida or for Gurugram, or what's happening in Kolkata would be the same in Pune. For commercial realty, again, we speak to a lot of developers, we speak to a lot of renowned professionals. The sense is the fundamentals of commercial realty in India are very strong. The recent REITs performance has shown us that. Most of the companies that have been taking commercial property are IT-based companies. They have been mostly resilient to the corona, so they are also expecting good recovery. The learning that for commercial realty from this COVID is, we might see a hub and spoke kind of a model coming up, where we'll have smaller offices across the city. Not the densities will decrease. Right now, commercial properties have been trying to squeeze as many employees in a square foot of space, which we will now, thankfully, will see, getting undensified. Industrial and warehousing, again, they are very prominent and they are sunrise. A lot of developers are now getting into that segment because of the e-commerce and, in fact, the push that COVID has given to e-commerce. So warehousing, again, we will see multi-level warehousing near the cities. A lot of developers getting into that, as a, expanding their, diversifying their portfolio. Industrial parks, we recently did a story on industrial parks. Again, a very strong segment of real estate which is coming up and which has high hopes on, the companies that will be shifting out from China. But again, a lot of policy support would be required from the government for that. Ease of business would be required from the government. Again, housing, what a lot of people mentioned, stamp duty reduction. Many say it is a very good initiative. It's a short-term initiative. It's a short-term push. What real estate needs is a long-term vision, long-term initiatives from the government to sustain the growth, to sustain the recovery. So I think these are my views, across, after talking to a lot of people from real estate, this is the feeling. But yes, there is a lot of positivity all across most of
the only thing I like to ask is, in Calcutta there's Durga Puja, there's Diwali coming on 14 November. So it's a festive season, right? But do we see this continuing beyond Diwali? I would like to ask this to every panelist. Do you see the demand continuing right up to the next year? What's your view, Sapna?
That is what I see. This stamp duty is, as they said, it is till March. So after that, what? This is like a lot of people say is a band-aid solution. You're just trying to fix it for now. But what after that? A lot of people have...
Sapna, it continues after that.
We are hoping that, so again, there are a lot of initiative government can take. Income tax, waiver for consumers. Circle rates, which is one of the biggest reason the projects are, are expensive. So we have to tackle the affordability. Latent demand, strong latent demand for housing is there. Even those people who didn't want to buy till now want to buy. But we need to kind of support that feeling. That's what I feel. Festive season may see a uptick, but we have to sustain that.
Right.
Let's look at what is to be done.
Yes, Murli.
Let's go back in 2000. See, when after the Asian financial crisis, India also went through serious difficulties. In 2000, same Indian government came with a beautiful policy on housing that redefined economic growth for the country. See, housing was the first topic to be major topic. At the time, Y2K was there, IT boom was there, all that was there, but all that did not lift the economy. It's the housing revolution which was brought in by same India government in 2000, which has led the growth and which has led the new economic growth for India in 2000. Now, if we are looking at becoming a 5 trillion economy today, we are, let's say, 2+ trillion economy today. If at all we need to become a $5 trillion economy today, we have got one brilliant idea our Prime Minister has mooted, housing for all by 2022. Now, that has been there for quite some time now. How do we shift that housing for all as the people priority? See, today it's the government priority. The day we shift housing for all as the people priority, as the priority by all the NGOs, all the private enterprises, all the public sector, all the government, then you will see suddenly we move from 2 trillion to 5 trillion economy in less than 2 years' time. So there is a lot of, small little things, some stamp duty increase or some stamp duty reduction, or, these are all, patch-ups. It's all tinkering. It's not going to help. We need to shift this priority to people priority. That's very important. It's not government priority. The day we do that, we will see a huge economic growth. Yes, there has been a demand on affordable housing, which will continue post Diwali, post Dashra. I don't see that's dropping down. That keep going. But if you need to look at overall growth, overall economic growth, overall growth to become 5 trillion economy, we need the engine. The engine is nothing but housing. Only when we start that engine, all other coaches will get added to it. Then the whole economy will move up, is my view.
Thank you so much.
Good point.
Ram,
Yes, sir.
This is the only project you're doing. I hope, as of now, one project at a time. That's what
we have three going on. We have 3 going on. 2 of them are one is in Bandra, one is in Khar. One is at, say, about a 70% completion, and one is at the initial stage. And the other one is a plotted development, as we were talking about, which is actually getting a lot of traction right now.
So, one of the mantras that I've been saying for the last 2-3 years is one project at a time, complete it, do the next project. Amit, do you see developers doing fewer projects but making sure that they've completed the projects, sold the projects, monetize the projects, and not do multiple projects at a time? Amit Goenka?
So Dr. Batra, for certainly we've seen consolidation. I think Murli is here and Ram is here and Saket are here, and we've seen a lot of developers realize that they can't necessarily chew everything on their plate, so they've started to do more aggressive DMs and JV and JDs and other sort of arrangements so that they can effectively give up their core responsibility, be more landowners or asset owners, than actually be developers themselves. So certainly, we're seeing an acceleration of that model in these times, especially because the capital that is invested behind some of these projects is obviously seeking an exit. They don't have the confidence in the erstwhile borrower. They need new parties, larger players, more secure, more national level or more corporate players to step in and actually take that over. So certainly, I think that is one aspect. The second is we've seen an 80% drop in new launches. We've heard a lot of people saying, oh, by the way, I was going to go into a new city, I was going to launch a larger phase, I was going to develop multiple apartments, and that all has been stopped. I think right now the focus is what can I build and sell the fastest first. So if my project is nearly complete, let me go after it, complete it, monetize it before I start pumping new money.
That mindset change has happened.
No, absolutely. So prioritization of collections or monetizability before you actually spread money thinly across a portfolio of assets, I think that's certainly not happening. I think there's a lot more conservatism in terms of what happens first and what happens second. Having said that, it's not necessarily one at a time. You obviously need to de-risk your portfolio, have multiple products, locations, and asset classes so that you can obviously pair your bets across the development portfolio. But there is absolutely no doubt the overall sector has shrunk and will continue to shrink. There will be a consolidation. The number of players will come down. The total inventory being sold will be so much, but by a very few players. So the people on the panel today, and I wish them good luck, and I'm very happy to see what they're doing. And I hope that there are such select strong players who know what they're doing, are delivering the product and going after it with a passion. But I can tell you, to Murli's point, a lot of luxury, and Ram knows that, South Mumbai stopped selling. A lot of luxury products are actually languishing. It is effectively a buyer's market or a bidder's market. And so much so also in Bangalore, so much so in Chennai, so much so in so many other parts of the country, including some of the most fancy or prestigious Luton's kind of locations or the Altamount kind of location are also not commanding any premium. So clearly, affordable mid-income, the end consumer story is very strong. That's where the capital is going in. That's what we're supporting. It has to make margins. It has to make sense. The efficiencies cannot be as high as one budgeted in terms of the total cost to completion to the total margins. There will be sensitivities which you need to build in. Well, one of the good points though, Dr. Batra, is while we believe, and we've seen that also, that there's been a correction on the price, but I also know that most products which are nearly ready and have been received well actually haven't slashed prices much. And I think that also is a good news, because a spiral of prices creates to further lack of confidence. So there has been renewed confidence. I know a lot of my investee companies, the number of footfalls that they've witnessed in the last few weeks, they haven't seen in the last, 1.5 quarters. So clearly there is demand, but very, very cautiously optimistic, maybe pessimistic on a few products, pessimistic on a few geographies. But yes, there are green shoots of demand. Commercial, I think, will continue. Core plus, I think there is a renewed enthusiasm. People are going all guns blazing behind commercial, behind industrial, behind warehousing, behind nearly completed assets. The yields have gone up, the cap rates have become better. There are more attractive deals on the table than there were pre-COVID. Interest rates have come down, so the spread between yield and borrowing has actually become positive for the first time in a number of years. So it's a very attractive trend which will encourage more and more people to go after core and core plus strategies. There's no doubt about that. We've seen a lot more people now queuing up for the REIT filing. We've seen 2 REITs. We believe there are 3 more REITs in the offing. That is obviously going to draw a lot more attention to India as a country, as an economy from the global perspective. Housing needs a lot more transformation, a lot more innovation. It could be the affordable rental housing complex scheme. And as Murli said, everybody needs to own a home. There have to be different ways to make that happen. It cannot be by purchase alone. There may be other models which need to be examined so that the developers can build and sell inventory at a faster pace. I have no doubt. So clearly the amount of capital is strong, the number of projects is strong, but good developers will still do better. But they have to be very, very conservative about what all challenges they're going to take, at least for the next 12 to 24 months. That's the period of pain which people will need to survive through, as far as housing is concerned.
Thank you so much. Amit, Shubhankar, do you share Amit's view, or you want to add to it, or you don't agree with it?
No, I completely agree.
All right, there seems to be a problem with the connectivity there. We'll try and reboot this particular aspect momentarily. But what we're going to do is, in fact, everybody's back once again. Let's go back to the conversation. Anurag, let's pick up from where we left off.
Yes, Shubhankar, we were talking to you and you were telling us.
Yeah, so as Amit said that there is a lot of interest for the commercial and warehousing, but at the same point of time, there are a lot of interest for the income yielding assets, so including data centers, including senior living, so on and so forth. And there are overseas players who are also looking at it. They want to come to India. And I can say at this point of time, there are other alternative asset class have opened up. For example, the national education policy, which has been unfolded these days, it has made entry of the best foreign operators, so overseas operators and education sectors have, it's a viable propositions for them now to start operating. So India in the longer term could be a hub of education in the long term. And these are the asset classes which has not been discussed in India so far or have not been looked at. So definitely this COVID has brought certain amount of transformation in the industry, I would say that. And I completely agree that on the residential spaces, there has to be new business model. It cannot be just a very conventional thing that we have been doing, because the market has become very different with the limited number of players operating out of the space, out of the industry. A lot of consolidation is happening, and only the people who understand the business better, who are more structured, more organized, and the wherewithal.
That is loud and clear. Yeah. Focus, fewer projects, monetize it. Saket, I want to ask you.
Yes, sir.
While September, August have been decent, October, November look very good. What's your view beyond January?
Beyond January, sir, when it comes to residential, I would continue to say that I am cautiously optimistic. And I would like to add some points to the government's initiatives. If there are some initiatives that can be undertaken by the government, I think that would really support us in the long-term sustainability of this sector. There are a few points. For example, the 80IB section that we have when it comes to affordable housing, the 80IB deduction that the developers get. This section needs a little bit of an overhaul, because the 45 lakhs is the cap limit on the affordable housing when it comes to 80IB. And this cap is very small when you compare it to the metros. The metro prices of Calcutta, Bangalore and Mumbai, even the affordable housing, nothing comes below 1 crore or 80 lakhs. So the cap should be substantially increased. And also I have another suggestion that the MAT that we pay, the minimum alternative tax, when it comes to 80IB, this MAT value, the percentage is quite high. If this could be reduced, it will lead to a further impetus for developers to get into affordable sector, build that affordable housing, and pass on the tax benefits that we get to the customer in terms of reduced pricing. So this is one long-term, as you were saying that, that these are very short-term solutions. The stamp duty reduction is a band-aid solution. So this is one long-term initiative that possibly the government could help us with.
Okay, this July 9th, there is a circular issued by the Government of India, wherein we have encouraged sovereign funds to come into India and invest into affordable housing projects. It starts from April 20 to March 24. Any investment made in this period are completely tax eligibility, entire tax concession, and as well as dividend tax concession. So it's a great thing what Government of India has done. In fact, it went unnoticed. It was on July 9th notification. So it has to be just extended to 80IB. I think we need to work with the government to link that sovereign.
Thank you so much for pointing that out.
Only has that been notified in the tax code?
Yeah, it has already been notified. It was July 9th notification. It's just not 20 to 24, which means projects which are investment which are made until March 24, which means you get to do another 5 years time until 29. It's roughly about 8 to 10 years period the concession has been provided. It's a fantastic move by government. So
we really welcome that move then. Thank you so much.
Again, I keep saying we have to laud the government for what it's doing. Let me bring in Sapna. Sapna, if you wanted to make two predictions about the real estate, what would those be?
She's an
One is, everyone has been saying that this is going to be a V-shaped recovery for economy, not just real estate, but there have been a lot of people saying V-shaped recovery, 2021 we'll see immediate recoveries happening in economy. But after speaking to a lot of people, learned people, what I have learned is that is going to be a K-shaped recovery. So K-shaped means while some industries will see an upward trajectory, quick recovery, like probably IT companies would see a quick recovery.
E-commerce, IT,
yes,
technology, edutech.
Correct. There are other sectors like affordable housing that would be the first to recover in real estate. Segments like hospitality, retail, low-paying, low wages jobs, they will be a downward. So they will see a very long way to recovery. So I think that is the prediction going forward from my end. Yeah.
Okay, Anurag, we just about five minutes left.
K-shaped for the first time.
Yeah, we have Anurag, 5 minutes left to the program. Let's get to brass task and ask the essential questions which we so regularly do.
Let me ask you two questions and I want very short answers to them. Twitter-like, straight, honest, don't be diplomatic. One, when do you see the Indian economy coming back in full bloom? 6 months, 12 months, or more than 18 months? Indian economy overall. Of course, sectorally there can be variation. Second is, what is your one top lockdown lesson? Let me start with you, Amit. When do you see the Indian economy coming back?
I would give it more than 18 months, Dr. Batra.
And how much more?
I would see more like 2023, 2024 before we start seeing, India.
3-4 years.
We're at 2020, so another 2.5 to 3 years. Because the problem of banks and financial institutions and NPAs, I think, is the biggest drain for us. We've been using short-term solutions for long-term problems, injecting some liquidity into banks and FIs.
What's your top lockdown lesson?
Top is don't make any assumption. All assumptions are going to fail. We failed on the assumption that everything that could have happened has happened. We've seen GST, demonetization, RERA, fall of NBFCs, HFCs. Now nothing can go wrong. Let's go ahead and put our money.
Assume nothing.
Assume nothing. Every day is a new day.
Shubhankar Mitra.
So
when is the economy going to be back?
I think it is 18 to 24 months once we get back to the entirety. And the one lesson that is from the lockdown is that a bird in hand is better than bird in the bush. So whatever you have in hand, you just focus on that. Don't think too much on how glorified things can be in future.
Saket?
Right, sir. I also predict 18 to 24 month recovery period for the overall economy, sir, because the COVID cases are not coming down, and till the time the COVID cases don't come in control, I don't see the sentiment, the positive sentiment coming back. And secondly, when it comes to lockdown lessons, one of them was family comes first, and those times are some times spent with family, which I will never get back, and I treasure those times.
Ram?
So I'll give another answer, which I'll say it all depends on the vaccine. If the vaccine is available to everyone sooner, my vision is that definitely the vaccine.
That's the right answer. So many months post-vaccine.
We cannot. So I think 6 months post-vaccine is what I'm looking at.
So if the vaccine is available mid next year, so you are talking of a 12 month. That's what the most indications are. That mid next year the vaccine should be out.
Correct.
And what's your top lockdown lesson, Ram?
Value your family and your home the most. It's your only real asset.
Okay, I like that.
Well said, well said. All right, on that note, I hope we have asked everyone, Anurag, what we needed to.
Murali?
Okay, Murali, you get to have the last word.
There are 3 points. I will not make any assessment on 18 months or 12 months or 24 months time. There are 3 things which are haunting our economy or our country today. Our government has got one of the best intent, but there is a deficiency on execution. Private sector has got the best of execution capability. There is a trust deficiency. Public sector, the scale deficiency. If we address these three, between government, private and public sector, remove these deficiencies, execution shift from, government to private sector, and scale, give public sector and private sector together. Probably, see, COVID is just an incident. I don't think it will affect us. I think we already got used to it. Maybe 6 months time, if we are able to address these three, we could bring back, I will not say, I'll say the golf shot, golf stick recovery. So it's not even V, it's just one tick. So that's a probability, provided if we do it. If we don't do this, we could be talking about it 18 months later, 12 months later, what could be the next timelines. So I would like to keep a very optimistic view on.
Okay, good that we have a lot of optimism on this panel today.
And what's your top lesson, Murli?
Value what you are.
Okay, Murli, unfortunately, we have run out of time. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Appreciate you taking out the time and pouring your heart out and what you think, and wish you all the best. And I hope this optimism that you spoke of and enunciated on NewsX today actually realizes itself in the next few months. Thank you very much, everyone, for being a part of this amazing show.